crafty friends, Shana from ShanoukiArt. I'm working in my scrappy art journal today. For today's layout, I'm going to be using some collage paper that I created. I've also made this available for you to use for free. If you'd like to download this freebie and print it at home to use, just follow the links in the description box below. I'm going to use the green side for today. There are many ways to use this, it doesn't have to be just for collage background. I'm using my ruler to tear this down to size. As you can see, a flat surface is better for tearing with a ruler. I'm just going to see which side I'm going to use and which part of the design I want in my background. I'm going to keep the design to the left part of my project, so I'm going to tear a piece and trim the top or bottom roughly just so it can fit on the page. It's okay if it overspills slightly, or a lot. Then using some Mod Podge, I'm going to cover the entire area where the collage paper is going to go. You could also use craft glue, glue stick or gel medium. Once I've stuck this down, I'm going to apply some Mod Podge over the top of the collage paper too. This is to waterproof it and to allow me to add any other kind of wet medium on top without tearing it and making it warp. And now I'm going to add some white gesso. I'm going to keep most of the collage paper quite bright. I'm adding the gesso just on the seam line where the collage paper ends and that crossword puzzle type of paper starts, just to blend the two together. For the other page, those bright colors don't match, so I'm going to put a piece of book page as the background for that page, which tones everything down. I'm going to use Mod Podge for this too. Once I apply the Mod Podge in a generous layer, and when I go to put the book page on, I realize that I actually don't want you to be able to really read it. It's not part of the entire look, so I'm going to stick it upside down. It still has the effect, but your eye isn't drawn there to read the text. And I'm going to add a thin layer of gesso over the entire book page to soften the entire look and push everything into the background. Once I've finished applying the gesso, I'm going to dry everything really well before I add any more color. A lot of the work that I do is quite go with the flow, and once I was drying this, I realized there's a beautiful rough edge where the paper was torn. So I've taken a black watercolor pencil, I'm dipping the tip into some water, and then I'm just drawing along the edge of the paper, just very roughly, and I'm really loving this dimension that it is giving the page. Again, totally not planned. Just go where the page takes you. I'm now going to add some more color. I'm using one of my stencils and I've taken sort of all the green inks and sprays that I have. I also have some color burst powder that I'm adding and spraying some water, some inks that I have, just sort of anything, and splashing that onto the stencil and adding water in between. At this point, I have added too much water, so when I press the other page over trying to make an impression, it all becomes a watery mess. So this has not worked out great, but that's okay. This is how we learn and we can still salvage this. Using a wet baby wipe, I'm wiping over the stencil and it's leaving a different kind of impression, which doesn't look too bad. So I've sort of done that while I am trying to get the ink and paint off the stencil. Drying that first layer before we go into the next. Using the same stencil, I'm now going to use my oxide ink and a blending brush, and I'm going to just do a little bit of stenciling just in the middle part of the page and a little bit on the edge. Again, this is quite bright, and to tone this down, I'm going to splash some water over the ink. Now, the ink is an oxide ink, so it reacts with the water, which picks up the color. So when you press a tissue over the water droplets you've just added, it lifts that color up and leaves a softer finish. Going through all my other scrappy bits of collage paper I've made in the past, I'm looking for a bright color to add a focal point. I have this orange spots that I've created with some text. And using my black watercolor pencil again, I'm doing a very rough butterfly wing. Nothing that needs to be too perfect, I like my stuff quite rustic. And originally I was going to use a separate color, but I have a little bit left of the same paper, so I'm going to make a second one with the same design. Now cutting this out while it's still a little bit wet is actually really good because some of the paper is tearing, so it's really leaving a very rough edge, which I like. So that's the two larger wings for the butterfly. I want something to make two smaller wings, so I'm going to use, it's the same paper just without the writing, in the beautiful bright orange. Started doing it freehand and realized I don't really know what size I want, so I've just placed my wings on the top and then just roughly drawing a similar shape but in a smaller size to get my bottom butterfly wings. Making butterfly wings like this is a great way to use up scraps and all little bits that you have around your desk that you maybe don't want to throw out but aren't big enough for any other kind of project. This orange is going to contrast really well with the green. So I'm just going to move all the scraps off and bring my art journal back and place those on the left-hand side to see how they look and if they fit okay. Once I'm happy with the size, the shape and the location, I'm going to stick everything down. Again, just using Mod Podge. It's on my desk. It's readily available and I really love using that to glue things down. But of course, use what you have. I'm then going to go in again with my black watercolor pencil and make a slim body for the butterfly and the little feelers. It doesn't have to be too perfect or even symmetrical. Now for the right-hand side page, I wanted to add an extension to the page, something that folds out. So using a piece of the collage paper that I used originally and a piece of the orange, I'm going to make a double-sided tag that's going to be added onto the edge of the page as an extension which folds out. I'm using a ready-made tag that's a good size as a template just to save time and just because it's easy. So I'm cutting out first the orange spotty paper. It's a great size, it's not too big and not too small. And then I'm just finding again a section of the green collage paper that I like, and I'm going to stick the orange onto the green one so we can get it double-sided. The paper I've used for both the orange spotty paper I've made and the print of the collage paper is just 80 GSM regular copy paper, so using a glue stick to stick these together is sufficient. Now I just want to see which side of the tag I want facing up. Do I want the orange contrasting or the one that's green that blends more in? While I'm still deciding, I'm going to add something to the tag. I'm going to take it under my sewing machine, do some black stitching all the way around with some bunched thread for interest, and I've also added some fabric at the top, and I've left all the strings loose because I love the look that gives. So I've decided to keep the orange facing up. I love the contrast it creates. I'm going to use a piece of regular masking tape to attach that to the edge of the page. I don't want to cover up the bunched thread that I made, so I'm cutting a smaller piece than the tag, adding half of it to the front, placing it onto the page, and then sticking the other half at the back of the page. I'm using some glue stick just to secure the masking tape. I do find that after time, it can unstick. I'm then also going to add a piece of masking tape on the inside to hold the tag in place well. If you prefer, you could use a washi tape. I just love the look of the masking tape, and it's rather subtle. And now I want to add some wording, so I'm going to use some orange acrylic paint in my little fine tip bottle, and I'm just practicing how I'm going to write it and just practicing the spacing, and then I'm just going to go ahead and write it. I am what I choose to become. I love that saying. And I really love that pop of orange in the text. While that's drying, I'm going to add one more little element. I'm going to add some black splatter to the bottom half of this page. I'm just covering my butterfly because I don't want any black splatter on that, and also going to cover the wording. And then using my watered down black acrylic paint and my fan paintbrush, I'm going to do a little bit of splatter, concentrating in the bottom part of the page. I really hope you enjoyed this art journal page and were inspired to create your own. Don't forget my freebie that is available to you. Check the links in the description box below. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch. Really hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe and then hit the little bell so you're notified every time I upload new content. Happy creating, and I will see you again soon. Bye.